much of this captured in video, but I hope as much as possible. Black Jester matters. Black Jester matters. I'm the Black Jester, and I am the Black Jester. The word thing was goldiehitler. Pardon me. See, I don't know if anyone likes cartoons, but they did, Bugs Bunny always had these great voice experiments, like Giovanni Jones and the Leopold situation, where everybody's fucking with him. He's gonna go, oh, shit! Just climbed the stairs, and my hip is still kind of fucked up from something. I don't know. I'll sleep and wake up, and suddenly my hip's in agony, and my knees know better. But I can't explain why. Anyway, so you have Giovanni Jones, and he's getting fucked with, and he's like, oh, 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 like that sort of thing. It's a great voice exercise. There's also another fun one, like where the Wagner thing. Oh, Bermuda, you're so lovely. Yes, I know it. I can't help it. Oh, Bermuda, you're my wife. It's a great voice, especially when you have to do the FUD voice and this, and even the Bugs Bunny thing. Yeah, you know you stinker. It's not perfect. But think about the guy that did Bugs Bunny and Heathcliff and stuff. That guy was a fucking genius. I mean, that guy was freaking brilliant. Fucking amazing. I think he did Giovanni Jones, I'm not sure. I know it was a Freeling cartoon. Just like one of the Freelings anyway. Anyway, so Bill Well's going to be running for the Republican nomination this time, and after running for the Libertarian nomination, that really works well for people, doesn't it? You can see people really trust him more. Libertarians are now gun shy about Amash, or I think it's some. Anyway, he's there's a couple, two Republican congressmen, which is perplexing because they're very libertarian guys in their voting record and stuff, but more so than Bill Weld would ever be considered. And but Bill Weld's probably made people a little shy about that sort of thing. I understand the position, like was it Jason Amash or something like that. So I'll look it up on Twitter here. Anyway, the position with the libertarian thing is that the best position that I have is that if these people really wanted to do something for the libertarian movement, they would make it possible for the libertarians to have a couple of seats in Congress. That makes it easier to argue yourself a position in debates when you're running a presidential candidate. But and it even makes it easier for the libertarian presidential candidate if he happens to be one of the people sitting there. But I don't know. Sometimes I think the libertarians just hold out for a think tank job with the Koch brothers and don't give a fuck about keeping the movement going. So they'll tolerate. They're really end up being Republicrats anyway. Yeah, the Koch brothers. Another funny thing is that they talk libertarian, but they pay conservatives. And they. I guess you could define a conservative as a libertarian who works a think tank. Or. God damn it! Fucking idiocy! I get very angry. Very angry. It's annoying today. Anyway, yeah, so that's how it goes. People are very confused about this sort of thing. People are very confused about this stuff. The thing with, and there's a lot of, so the Koch brothers basically designed the controlled opposition to keep libertarians at bay, maybe? I don't know. Strange thing. Because they never fund a libertarian candidate. Never try to boost that up. They keep parties those parties as obscured as possible and stuff. They're really right Soros. Or Schwartz. So yeah, well, so there's that, and there's the people are going nuts about, people are jumping the gun on this whole burning thing. I don't want to discuss the burning cathedral until they have any sort of evidence or something. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's where things go. I mean, Welda's quite a political imposter. It's just terrible. You know, it's a funny thing when you think about how things are. It's impressive when someone will actually run against an incumbent on a nomination level. I think that's something impressive about it. It's not terrible. I mean, if it were anybody else, it'd probably be impressive anyway. I mean, he's going to be eaten alive because what he did with the libertarian shit and stuff. It's on both, from both ends. And libertarians aren't going to like him, and the conservatives are going to say he's, well, opportunist and stuff like that, which is true. I mean, he also claims, he says it used to be called Taxachusetts. Yeah, it's still called Taxachusetts. Well, it's still called Taxachusetts. He didn't fucking change that. You Romney or any of that crowd. No, Romney was Michigan? Yeah. I think it was Michigan. Although maybe I'm right. Who could be? Dissenter. Like a shot caught. But he's still trying to give trouble for Gab, which is kind of making Minds look suspicious, because somehow Minds gets what... Minds is a very... I mean, the libertarian group in Minds was taken over by white supremacists. I mean, they say Gab was... I mean, I don't think Minds is guilty for that, but I think it's suspicious that somehow Minds still has an app, and it still has a bank account that, without trouble, and it seems a bit funny that somehow... And I think if anyone's probably causing trouble for Gab, maybe it's Minds, because Minds has the alternative market they want to keep in control of. I mean, Twitter and Facebook are the established competition, established social media. So, I figure the dirty tricks would come from a new entity, or maybe with the help of an old entity. I don't know, but certainly not. Dissenter was a brilliant idea, and like a lot of brilliant ideas, people try to knock it down, like with Leeuwenhoek and the microscope and stuff like that. That was silenced for quite some time before they actually revived it. Could have had much more sophisticated microbiology sooner if people were more keen on pushing it. That's the sort of thing that happens. There, von Leeuwenhoek. So yeah, it's not great. But it's being controlled. And you ever think? I don't even guess, but I think there's certain people who flag themselves and try to get kicked off social media for liberty cred, as I call it. And I don't think it happened in all cases, but I think especially later on, like when people started getting knocked off Patreon and stuff, I started thinking maybe some of them got compensated to look kicked off, and that way they could help the establishment create a fear while they save their own ass, and they still got their own voice out there. And they establish a fear of anybody else having a new voice or a voice out there. It's sort of a career censorship. Career and censorship. Now AdSense will do anything they can not to pay anybody. So it's really hard to figure out what their motivation is. But Patreon and stuff, that whole thing seemed a bit odd. I've done a lot of things that might be flagged a lot, and I don't get knocked off. I'm pretty sure I get flagged. Probably flagged more than I ever get liked, that's for sure. I think I've been shadow banned a few times, but that was mostly during an election because I started mic dropping candidates. But they do tend to have certain. I was thinking of losing buttons, and that sort of thing. So just teeter off into some tangent, I guess. But I worry. It's a good idea to have a very good scrutinization process and be a little bit suspicious that maybe some people are seemingly some people seemingly do well for people who are crying censorship on a high level, and their finances are really dedicated to the idea of this sort of movement where they I know it's very expensive being involved in the libertarian movement, and because there's not a lot of money in it, and it costs a lot of money in the sense that you can't really make a lot of money while you're doing it, because it's principles is a very expensive thing. Morality is a very expensive thing. That's also being decent and honorable is I think they usually call this a bourgeois morality and stuff like that, because they were usually the people who come out of it unscathed, and largely I think it was because there were usually sort of hypocrites about it too, like some of these sort of, I guess you could probably call them maybe even YouTube ruling class or something, but it's good to have some sort of scrutiny about these things, because you never know about that. So we got a Prime Minister now who was the son of the Prime Minister, who tricked everyone into believing Canada was independent. Yeah, that's right. That's why we still got the Queen on the money, and Queen is a head of state, and who is also a head of a church. It's a nice liberal democracy, isn't it? Something with a church head who believes in it, who still represents the institution of divine right, and god damn. How do people believe this shit? It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I mean, or very clever. Just Uh, Nick DiPaolo just slammed the viral guy. Jesus. If anyone knows about root vegetables, Turn potatoes quite like an O regime, but it's pretty good. Just, I don't know, is an O regime or a root vegetable? I think it's above ground. Well, it's also fruit, I guess. I guess that's what they say about me too. Twinkle, twinkle, little toes. Yeah, it's a weird week. It's something that we like. I had a lot of ideas I thought I'd talk about on assembly, just blank. But I go to the jokes and stuff. Trump had a great idea about sending immigrants to these sanctuary cities. Like, alright, you got big mouths, how about you fork the bill? I mean, it's just brilliant. It's like, Jen Inslee wants to have a NIMI, not in Mercer Island promotion bill or policy, you know. We can't afford them out in Washington. It's just like, fuck. That's the point, asshole. I mean, that's the whole point. The whole point is you can't afford the damn immigration, and that's why you have a limit on it. I mean, if you could afford it, everyone could just open up the borders and just let it say, come on in, suck our teeth. I mean, it's basically right. I mean, yeah, there are plenty of people in the country need help already. It's kind of funny, they're saying, well, they're not going to self-sustain themselves. Oh yeah, I love that. It's like, shut up! Dog is yakking. Don't know what he's on about. Or the dog's downstairs on the anyway. Yeah, so so these hypocrites or something like saying, like, it's just fine if you put them in middle America, so that which is kind of ridiculous because you're targeting the states that probably need your super delegates choice candidate votes out there, people who weren't. You have to cover some people are pissed off about the. It's just terrible. It's terrible what they do with the center. And it's a great idea. Not all everybody was right wing. There was some left wing. There were some libertarians on it. It was just brilliant. And it was cool, you know, you didn't even need comment sections anymore, really. I mean, anyone could comment on anything, anywhere. It was like a really cool thing. It was awesome. They make a browser, too, now. Because eventually they can start attacking people's hosts, which is probably the last thing which is probably a great idea. There's one thing that Infowars did right, is that they had a regular website. That way they can keep on talking about the gay frog alien hybrid pissing in the water. Make me cough again. Anyway, yeah, it's like, so Infowars can still talk about the gay frog alien hybrid conspiracy. Gay frog alien hybrid conspiracy. And keep talking about that. even when the social media clowns knock them off. Assuming that's true, I mean, they got a questionable video about this little broad who hates Irish Catholics, who goes around, yeah, she went on Beta O'Rourke. She sort of badmouthed Beta O'Rourke on the basis of being Irish. And I was thinking, this sounds like the symphonies. This sounds like the 60s and John F. Kennedy and shit. I mean, it's like, you really want to give him credit, Kennedy cred? I mean, really, on this, we're not nice going right wing. I mean, be just as stupid as they are about, that's the problem. Everyone becomes an idiot with identitarianism. Especially with the ism part. I mean, isms usually make everything worse and more radical and more weaponized, and it's just terrible. Like, sure, it's not good to be a victimist, but victimism, maybe we should call it victimism. Instead of social justice, let's call them victimism. There's no justice, it's antisocial. And they're not warriors, they have no code. So I don't want to call them any of that. Just call them victimists. Ist and ism, that usually makes things worse anyway. You can't help being a victim, but you can't help being a victimist. Yeah. Facebook and Twitter continue to purge of users who violate their policies prohibiting hate speech. Some extremists kicked off, this is Huffington Post, of course, what I parody as Huffing Glue Post. And that's at huffingluepost.com. Also, myyotimes.com if you want to see the rest of the articles. I kind of split them up into different domain areas. But the satire articles, thing. Let's see. Kicked off platform. I found a safe space on TikTok. Some extremists kicked off platform safe space on TikTok. The Chinese-made video sharing app that become widely popular among Generation Z. I haven't even heard of this, and the idea it's Chinese-made is even scarier. I mean, really? How the they gotta be crazy. faithgoldie, Canadian white nationalist. She rarely talks about skin color. faithgoldie is a lot of things, but she's not big on mentioning white. She calls it Canadian nationalist. She's a Canadian nationalist, which is kind of ridiculous because the British still kind of have a stranglehold on us. So let's be faced, we never had a real independence declaration. We never had any of that shit. We should have followed suit, but we decided to fight it off with them, in 1812 and shit. It's terrible. God, would Trump just try to enforce the Oregon Treaty so I can get down there easier? I mean, I have to get a guarantor to get my long form from Ontario. I barely know what a guarantor is. It's ridiculous, because I don't know a few details of my birth. I don't know a few details. You gotta remember everything? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's good to have citizen standards, but Jesus. I can't help where I was born, and now I'm trying to get south for better business. Not as permanent, necessarily, just, pay the withholding taxes, and, like, Steam is basically doing that shit. On TikTok, where Goldie still has an active account, she freely posts xenophobic. It's kind of weird, though. I mean, China has this platform. How does YouTube and shit deal with that? I mean, the fact that people are running to a communist country's video service from one in Silicon Valley. Do the extreme do the left realize how insanely extreme they have driven things? The fact that coloring this woman as a white nationalist is ridiculous. I mean, she's a Catholic, for one thing, and Catholics are not well regarded among white nationalists. They're not regarded well among white supremacists. They're basically Jews as far as white supremacists goes. We are, actually, because I'm Catholic too. Basically, I mean, if you, I'm gonna just start talking. They're basically Protestant extremists, really. They're wasps. They're extreme wasps. Catholics don't enter into that sort of thing. If Faith Goldie was left alone in that situation, she wouldn't be any safer than she would be in an Islamic camp. Or anything else. Probably safer in an Islamic camp because they still believe in the Virgin Mary, the virgin birth, that religion. It's a kind of funny thing. Like the Irish Catholics, they also have a similar accusation behind them. Granted, the Irish were always smart enough to leave the car before blowing it up. But no matter what, I'm not sure that Islamists have a drink named after them, though. I don't think there's an Islamic a drink called the Islamic bus bomb or body bomb or self bomb. I guess you have to mix it with two different types of fruit juice. But it's kind of funny because they get the virgin birth, but they also have the Protestant drinking regiment, where you can only have fruit juice. And that zeal too. It's like, that's mad. It's weird. It's very, very strange that they consider her a white nationalist. It's like Buchanan too. Buchanan was a Catholic, and we called him all these things. He wasn't all those things. He wouldn't be allowed in all those things. David Duke endorsed him, but I think David Duke is a walking hit piece. They use it. They can throw money his way, and he'll endorse them and not endorse the guy he actually votes for. Because he's got to know that they won't support the guy he likes. They won't. So anyone David Duke endorses is probably the other guy he supports. It's more than likely. I'm pretty sure he was more fond of Bob Dole or Clinton and stuff like that than he was Pat Buchanan. Especially since he was considered a heathen by people like that. Also an Irishman. A Scotch Irishman. Still, yeah, so that's already, when you're not expecting people to be straight up with you on Huffington Post. Or Huffington Post. TikTok, really. Short video app, I thought we were done with that stuff. It was terrible. Just endlessly flipping ones. There's a dead app on that one.